Without much ado, I will pass the baton on to Amit, and we shall look forward to hear his presentation.
Good evening from India. Mine is a very short presentation. It doesn't involve much of interpretation. It's actually more kind of reporting of some new points, but it adds to our knowledge. Now, before I actually start talking about the Vemaki copper coin, which is the subject matter today, for the benefit of those who are uninitiated in the subject or who are not very familiar with the ancient Indian history, I would briefly like to summarize. You see, in the post-Mauryan period, particularly the period following 2nd century BCE, saw the fragmentation of the imperial political authority, and at the same time, the emergence of several smaller states and chieftaincies in North and Central India. Many of these states were actually in existence in earlier times, but they had been annexed to the Magadha Mauryan Empire. So after the downfall of the Mauryan Empire, they reasserted their supremacy and they came into existence. Now, their political existence in this period is actually revealed by their coins, and there are multiplicity of coin types. They've been referred to by various names like local coins or post-Mauryan period or early indigenous coins or native Indian coins, Janpad coins, monarchical, nominative issues, republican or tribal coins, and city issues, and so on. So it's better to call them post-Mauryan coins. Now, on a macro level, I find that there are three features that characterize the coins of post-Mauryan period in North India. And these features distinguish them from the coins of the preceding Mauryan period. Firstly, the coins of post-Mauryan period were localized. They circulated because these issuing states were much smaller in comparison to the earlier imperial states. And so they circulated within a much smaller area. This was in stark contrast to the imperial coinage of the Mauryan period, which, as most of us know, are found over a much wider, almost all over the Indian subcontinent. Secondly, in the post-Mauryan period, the coins that were issued are predominantly in cheaper metals or baser metals like copper or bronze, and at some places in lead. In this period, there are only a few states, so-called tribal states, which were in the hilly regions of North India, who issued some silver coins. Apart from this, no precious metal coins are to be found in this period. Again, this is in contrast to the Mauryan period, where the currency was predominantly in silver. And thirdly, coins issued in the Mauryan period or the period preceding to that were sort of anonymous. Anonymous in the sense that they did not have anything written on them, no inscription on them. And hence, they are not very precisely attributed. We cannot attribute them to particular rulers or at times even states. In stark contrast to this, although many uninscribed coins continued to be struck in the post-Mauryan period, but gradually the tendency was that inscriptions began to appear on the coin. So the coins in post-Mauryan period become identified. We can identify the rulers, and on the basis of the provenance, sometimes even the showing states. So these three features characterize the coins of post-Mauryan period. Now, it's a small state that is the subject matter of today. So in the post-Mauryan period, apart from others, there were some so-called tribal states, republican states, which issued their coins in North. And they're called tribal states because on their coins, the name of the people or the jana or tribe is mentioned. And most of these states are located in the hilly regions of Himachal Pradesh, joining it in Punjab, parts of Haryana, parts of Rajasthan, Western Uttar Pradesh, and Uttarakhand. It's from this region that most of these tribal issues come. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that it is only some of these tribal states which issued coins in silver in this period. But at the same time, it's very pertinent to remember that even amongst those states, 5 or 6 states are known to have issued their coins in silver. Only Kuninda issued them in substantial numbers. And to some extent, the Vemaki, which is another tribe, and although the silver coins of Vemaki are not that large in number, but the related Mahadeva coin, which are Odambaras or Vemaki or who are different dynasties, but they are very related to Vemakis, as we shall shortly see. Only these are issued in good numbers. The silver coins issued by the other tribes or other tribal states are extremely rare, known only by a few scant specimens. And I believe that they were more kind of ceremonial or commemorative issues. So the norm for the period was the copper or cheaper metal coin. And this actually was troubling me because the Vemakis so far were known mainly by their silver coins. Their copper coins were extremely scarce. Only 3-4 pieces were known. Now, in this presentation, I'm going to I'm going to report many more copper coins of Vemaki, which proves that they are not as rare as they have been so far believed to be. But before that, you can have a look at the Vemaki silver coin. This is the basic type, and they're biscriptal. They have a Nandi bull and in front a lotus flower standing and Kharoshte inscription, which is Rayon Vemakis Vijayaghosha. And on the other side, there is an elephant. In front of it, there is a trident with battle axe, and the Brahmi inscription reading Ragyo Vemakis Rudravamasa and Vijayaghosha. And in this type, there are two rulers are known. One is Rudravarman, who's coined missing here, and another represented by a solid specimen belonging to the Anlingan collection, and it was published by Sakanda. That's of Bhagwan. Now, related to this is another type which is kind of more prolific, They have been found in much larger numbers. Uh, they've been known since long, but it doesn't. The inscription on this type, that although the type is very similar to the coin, previous coin, which has the word Vemaki, the name of the people, name of the tribe. But on this particular type, you don't find the word Vemaki. It says Bhagavat or Bhagavat, Mahadevat, Raj Rajya. On the basis of the word Mahadev, it was earlier attributed to the Audumbaras. There are some people who still do. Some people identify it on the basis of typology as the Vemaki too. But Dr. Handa has convincingly argued that it's a coin by a king who called himself Bhagavat, Mahadev, and Rajarajan, maybe having another dynastic association. But even there, the type suggests that it was closely linked to the Vemaki. Now, as regards the copper coins, so far only 3-4 specimens are known, and still very late. In fact, the inscriptions on them were not read. In his book, Dr. Handa has correctly reconstructed the name of the king, and it has been correctly read as Shivaghosha. So only one king is so far known to have issued copper coins. And but now, Hinduja Foundation Antiquity Collection has more than nearly 70 Vemaki copper coins, and out of that, about 50 coins belong to this ruler. So, the full typology of this copper coins of this ruler can now be reconstructed. Like earlier, on the earlier known specimen, the Kharoshte inscription on the reverse was not visible. Now, the can be seen and gives the same inscription as on the obverse. So basically, the type of the coin has elephant. It's similar to the silver coin. The only thing is that shape changes. Now they become squarish or rectangular. So, but the motifs remain the same. So there is an elephant standing to right above state or wavy line, which most often is not visible, although it can be seen on top. And it holds a stalk of flower of dot in upraised trunk. There is an unidentified motif, at least for me, unidentified. I'm not very good at symbology, so maybe the audience here can help me in identifying it. Above the elephant, as I'll be showing you these slides, and there's a plain trident in front of the elephant. And Brahmi inscription is usually on the left and top margin, and it reads Ragyo Vemakis Shivaghosha. And on the reverse, there is a humpful standing to left above a wavy line, perhaps representing a river. And there are Nandipada and swastik above the lotus. There's a lotus flower in front of the feet. And the Kharoshte inscription on the right and top margin, it reads Rayo Vemakisha Shivaghosha. Here the were after she is not written, she is followed by her, and then the cerebral S followed by dental S. Here the coin. Here you can see the Brahmi inscription is on the top coin is there. Reads Ragyo Vemakisha. Then on the top line, Shivaghosha circle can be seen. On the bottom coin, you can see the motif above the elephant, which I'm unable to identify. Because it has a long, I'll show you another better specimen, but you can see part of the Kharoshthi inscription, which the Yo Vemaki on this particular coin. Here we can see the Shivaghosha on the top, in the top line, the part of the inscription, the inscription is visible. And most of these coins weigh around, I mean, the maximum number of coins weigh around 2.4 grams to about 1.9 grams. Yeah, this is the motif that I was talking about. Here, a slight blow up is given. I don't know what it is.
I can tell you what it is.
Okay.
It's a plough. It's the lion head on one side and the tail. It's a sort of symbolic plough, like on the Bhumika coins.
I do follow you, but it seems that it does have a head or something looks like a head.
Yes. I think it's a lion head and then the blade of the plough behind it.
Yeah, had it been a lion, then it could have been understood. I mean, because the Gaj Shardul is a motif known in Indian mythology. So, but it has, I mean, the tail is very long, so I don't know. It's possible that it's a lion or it's a plowshare. Anyway, maybe those Shailendra or Dr. Panda can help us. Here, I'm not too sure whether it's a coin of Shivaghosha because the name portion is not fully visible. But this variety, this particular type shows a slight change in the placing of the symbols above the bull, because here the swastik comes first, and swastik is actually Vamaprabhu, which is anti-clockwise, and then followed by Nandipat. And I have a suspicion that this particular coin is actually overstruck and on an earlier plan, because even on the reverse, I can see the letters Merklo, which is maybe part of the government system. But this is a slight different variety of coin. But now this is, I showed first the coins of Shivaghosha because previously the coins of only this ruler was known. But I feel that he is not the earliest Vemaki ruler, Vemaki chief to have issued coins in copper. He was perhaps preceded by Vijayaghosha, a new ruler, and on his coins are much more worn out as compared to those of Shivaghosha, and they are actually heavier. The heaviest one weighs about 4.07 grams, and there are others 3, 4, 5.4, and they weigh around 3.6 and above 3 grams. And essentially, the typology seems to have been changed. Here, the inscription, I don't know about the Kharoshthi inscription, but because on none of them the full Kharoshthi inscription can be seen, but it does have a Kharoshthi inscription. And the Brahmi inscription reads Vemaki, Vijayaghosha. as you can see here. Here, perhaps the motif above the elephant looks more like a lion. And besides that, the Brahmi letter that is part of Vemakis and Vijayaghosha can be seen. And on the other side, you can see part of the Kharoshthi inscription, which is Do Vemakis, and then may be the name of the ruler followed in the top margin. On the second coin, actually the Kharoshthi inscription seems to have begun on the top margin, not on the right. So on the top margin, Rayo Vemakis, Vema can be seen. And of the Brahmi inscription, the year letter gives a clue to identify it as of Vijayaghosha. Of Vijayaghosha, only 4-5 specimens are in the collection of the foundation. Then there is another ruler whose name is Ajitaghosha, who is again another new ruler known. Here the typology shows some change, although the main motifs do not change, that is, elephants and bull remain there. The only thing is that here above the elephant, we can see a Nandipada symbol, whereas above the bull, you can see the Shiva symbol. As far as the inscription of this coin is concerned, on the Brahmi inscription, it's Ragyo Ajita can be seen. Ajitaghosha can be seen, and after that, it's effaced. So we do not know what followed it. On the reverse, actually shows Rayo Vemakis and part of Ajitaghosha can be seen. So in the reverse inscription, Kharoshthi inscription, the name, tribe name, Vemaki is mentioned. So there is no doubt that he was another Vemaki chief. There are two other points where the inscriptions are cruder. I'm unable to read the name, although part of it looked like a cruder version of Peter, but I'm not too sure. It may be. But again, the name ended in Gosha. That is pretty sure. And it has the name Vemakis. But as far as the typology is concerned, these two coins also have the same motif, that is Nandipad above the elephant and Shiva above the bull on the reverse. So they either belong to Ajitaghosha or maybe another chief following Ajitaghosha. And these actually look very similar as far as calligraphy is concerned to of the unpublished Audumbara copper coins, which are actually similar in fabric, shape, methodology to these Vemaki coins. And it's not surprising because they were neighbors and they must have circulated together. And there are many Audumbara copper coins, many new rulers who are not known till now. Maybe the Hinduja Foundation will get them published in the form of a book. Because we have large number of the copper coins. And actually, if you're incidentally, we should be thankful to a collector with now no more, with Lansdane, because it's his collection that is now in the Hinduja Foundation collection. And I'm thankful to him because looking at the collection, I found that he was not interested in stray coins. Wherever the lots or parts of the road were available, so he used to acquire them in lots. So they are available in larger numbers, and he was interested in base metal coins. So because otherwise in the museum, most of the museums do not get to acquire these coins. That's not available. There are two other coins which represent some new types, because here the direction of the motif change, like elephant on the top coin is facing to right. It has something above its back, maybe part of that remnant of that motif. Trident can also be seen, and the bull, and in front there is a lotus flower, and above the bull you can see a swastika, although the inscription on these coins are written. But the typology leaves no doubt that this is a Vemaki coin. We cannot identify the date suggests that it should be one of the earlier rulers. And on the second coin, as is normal, the elephant faces left, well, the bull still faces to right, which is again a new variety. So these are some of the new types or new rulers that can now be added to the our knowledge of Vemaki chief. Well, maybe all these coins, there are about 17 numbers. They were found together in a hoard. I do not have much idea because they were perhaps acquired sometime in 80s, early 90s by the Lansdane. Maybe Shailendra has some idea about where it was found, or actually what they have the information about these. Now, as regards the concluding remarks, evident from these points that the Vemakis, as per the norm of the period, issued one of their coins in copper, not in silver. Although the number of coins known is still on smaller side, 5 coins, but the die variations that are seen in these coins indicate that they would have struck a substantial number of copper coins. And as I mentioned in passing earlier, the similarity in the shape, fabric, and the quality of these Vemaki copper coins with the copper coins of the neighboring tribe or Umbara suggests that they would have been issued in the same time frame, sometime in first, second. Well, I'm grateful to the authorities of the Foundation and collection permitting me to use their coins for this paper. All these copper coins used in this presentation are for the Buddha Foundation and the collection. And I'm also very thankful particularly to my friends Joe and Sharon for giving me this opportunity, for persisting with me in spite of me being with in communication for a long period of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amit, very much. That was a very enlightening presentation.